And we're live now.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings of Allah be on you all. On behalf of Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'at, British Columbia, it's my distinct honor and pleasure to welcome you all to this evening's event to celebrate the United Nations World Interfaith Harmony Week, which is celebrated from February 1st to 7th here in British Columbia. And we do this in conjunction with our friends at Surrey Interfaith Council, for which we are very thankful to them. And we also acknowledge that all of our activities take place on the traditional ancestral unceded territories of the Coast Salish people, with whom we live, learn, work, and enjoy our freedoms. As it is a tradition in Islam, we will start tonight's proceedings with a brief recitation of the Holy Quran, and I will invite Murabbi Umranul Haq Bhatti Sahib for a brief recitation of the Holy Quran with its English translation.
Thank you, Umar. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Peace and blessings be upon you all. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. The verses which I have recited are from the Holy Quran, which is the holy scriptures of the Muslims, and it is the very first chapter, which we call Surah Al-Fatiha, or the opening chapter, which contains 7 verses. The translation is as follows: in the name of Allah, the gracious, the ever merciful. All praise belongs to Allah, Lord of all the worlds, the gracious, the ever merciful, master of the day of judgment. Thee alone do we worship, and thee alone do we implore for help. Guide us on the right path, the path of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy blessings, those who have not incurred your displeasure, and those who have not gone astray. Thank you.
Jazakumullah. Thank you very much, Imam Sahib, for your melodious recitation. Now I will briefly present the overview of the program as a brief introduction of World Interfaith Harmony Week and a brief introduction of Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the host for this evening's program. The World Interfaith Harmony Week was first proposed at the United Nations General Assembly on September 23rd, 2010 by His Majesty King Abdullah II of Jordan. Just under a month later, on October 20th, 2010, it was formally adopted by the UN, and henceforth the first week of February is observed as World Interfaith Harmony Week across the world. The World Interfaith Harmony Week provides a platform 1 week a year where all interfaith groups and other groups of goodwill can show the world what a powerful movement they are. The thousands of events organized by these groups often go unnoticed, but not only by the general public, but also by other groups themselves. This week will allow for these groups to become aware of each other and strengthen the movements by building ties and avoiding duplicating each other's efforts. So it's an effort to do interfaith work together. Now, a brief introduction of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, the host for tonight's program. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'at is a dynamic, fast-growing international revival movement within Islam. Founded in 1889, AMJ spans over 200 countries, with membership succeeding in tens of millions. AMJ is the only organization to believe that the long-awaited, only Islamic organization to believe that the long-awaited Messiah has come in the person of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian. Ahmadis claimed to be the metaphorical second coming of Jesus of Nazareth and the divine guide whose advent was foretold by the Prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. AMJ condemns bloodshed and reinstates morality, justice, and peace. Ahmad alayhi salam, the advent has brought about an unprecedented era of Islamic revival. He divested Islam of fanatical beliefs and practices by vigorously championing Islam's true and essential teachings. He also has united the family of religions under the single banner of the true Islam by safeguarding the teachings of Abraham, peace be on him, Jesus, peace be on him, Moses, peace be on, and all other prophets, peace be on them. With that brief introduction of Ahmadiyya Muslim community, I would now, before handing over to our MC for this evening, Pastor Tim Kiefer, who is an old friend of our community and has been a part of our interfaith movement for many, many years. Pastor Tim was called, just a brief introduction, Pastor Tim was called to Chinatown Peace Church in May 2017. Tim has taught theology for several years in Zimbabwe, served as lead pastor at Peace Mennonite Church in Richmond, BC for over 12 years, and also served as a short stint as senior minister at First Baptist Church in downtown Vancouver. He has earned a Master's of Divinity and also a Master of Theology degrees from Regent College. Besides Jesus, his family, and books, Tim loves hiking, cycling, and ice hockey. He is married to Sandra, and they have 3 young adult sons. Over to you, Pastor Tim. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thank you so much, Umar. Well, what an honor it is to be invited to moderate this very special event. And what a great topic it is. Multi-faith diaspora, force for positive change. Indeed, I've experienced this marvelous force for positive change myself. Especially, I would say, in my 12 years of ministry as a Christian pastor along Richmond's highway to heaven. Our Christian scriptures say this: always be prepared to give an answer to anyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have, but do this with gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience. Well, we religious speakers have a bit of a reputation for having a lot to say, don't we? And it's all really very good and valuable. But we do have 10 speakers on the roster this evening. So if you would choose to even go a little under 10 minutes, this may be even appreciated. If you go over, it may be my duty to send you a little message privately to you. I think at the 8-minute mark, I'll send you a little alert, which only you can see on your screen. Shall we begin then? Now, I believe we had hoped to have with us the Chief Neil Dubord of the Delta Police Department, but am I right? He is not able to be with us this evening. Am I correct, Mr. Chowdhury? Oh, I'm sorry, you are on mute here. I just don't want to make sure I don't miss him if he is here with us.
No, I don't know why he was not able to join, but he had confirmed. I will, maybe something might have come up and he might not have been able to join.
Okay, we'll watch for him, and I'll try not to miss him if he does come. He was going to give us some opening remarks, but hopefully he'll be with us. So we are going to begin instead with Rabbi Laura Duhan Kaplan, representing Judaism. Rabbi Laura is director of the Interreligious Studies and professor of Jewish Studies at Vancouver School of Theology. She's a popular lecturer, retreat leader, and synagogue prayer leader who loves to bring people together for dialogue and discussion. Each year at VST, she hosts an interreligious conference on a certain theme of public concern. Recently, she was honored with a Visioneer's Lifetime Achievement Award for Peace and Community Well-Being. Laura is Rabbi Emerita of Or Shalom Synagogue here in Vancouver and Professor Emerita of Philosophy at the University of North Carolina in Charlotte. She's also the author or editor of 10 books. Rabbi Laura, a dual Canadian-American citizen, grew up in New York City. She's married to psychologist Charles Kaplan, and together they are musical partners in the band Sulam. Parents of 2 young adults, yeah, we too, and caretakers of a changing array of companion animals. Rabbi Laura, we look forward to what you have to share with us.
Thank you so much to Tim and everyone at the Ahmadiyya Mosque who's hosting us this evening. I am delighted and honored to be here. And the theme of this year's conference, May 24th to 26th at the Vancouver School of Theology, is Religious Responses to Climate Change. And our Buddhist speaker, Kathy Merchant, is working together with me to put on this conference. I love the title that you selected for today, the multi-faith diaspora, because it suggests that we and so many people have been dispersed from different places around the world, and each of us brings our unique culture, our unique arts, musics, foods, spiritual teachings, our unique stories about how to get through hard times as a community. And we all meet here in this different place with the ability and the opportunity to learn from one another. It also recognizes, as Umar said, that all of us relative newcomers to Canada are welcomed here by Canada's Indigenous peoples who ask us to receive their culture and their knowledge about how to get through difficult times, even as we share ours. So I'm grateful for the Indigenous peoples. I'm grateful for this evening's organizers. I want to share a teaching from the Jewish scripture, from the biblical prophet Zechariah. Zechariah taught that the ideal place of worship is one that recognizes and welcomes people of all different religious traditions. And not only is everyone welcome, but at least once a year, spiritual leaders of all different traditions should get together in that place of worship to pray together for things that are of common concern to all, such as food security, reliable climate, justice, equity, and integrity. And when we have such ideal places, the prophet Zechariah says, at that time, God will be one and God's name will be one. He is speaking in his Jewish idiom when he says that, but I think we can understand his sentiment, and we can also affirm that that's what we have going on here this evening. People of different traditions coming together to speak about something that is an important concern to us, which is the celebration of living together in an open-hearted way. I want to say a bit about where the prophet Zechariah is coming from in his own experience when he gives that teaching, because I think this is a helpful message for us to hear in our time right now. The prophet Zechariah is speaking and writing and receiving his visions not long after his own community of Judah was invaded by the Babylonian Empire and dispersed in exile. And Zechariah believes that he is articulating what we need in order to strengthen ourselves against invasion by a not very well-meaning imperial force. Zechariah says, if we all get to know one another, then invaders and those who don't mean well, they cannot divide us. They cannot divide us because we know one another. They cannot divide us because we are used to working together. If outsiders come and they try to spread negative gossip about any tradition, then we are prepared to say, well, we know that's not true because we know each other and we work together for the common good. If they challenge us in ways that impoverish us, make it difficult for us to get food or the services that we need, then we are all used to doing in concert what religious traditions, or one of the things that religious communities do best, which is feed the hungry, visit the sick, comfort the bereaved, and bring people together to pray for peace and to work for peace. And if others come and try to divide us, we respond by getting together and strengthening our resolve to do together what we do best. And following the teachings of the prophet Zechariah, when we do that, God will be one and God's name will be one. And however you name that force or that spirit or that presence, you will know that together, motivated by it, we are strongest. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Rabbi Laura, for those inspiring words. Yeah, to feed the hungry, to visit the sick, and comfort the weary, to bring people together to pray for peace. I guess I also want to say thank you to the Ahmadiyya community for doing that for us right here this evening as well. And so, again, thank you, Laura, for that wonderful challenge to us and inspiration. Next is Mrs. Kathy Merchant, who is representing for us Buddhism. Kathy is a Mahayanan Buddhist who is married to an Ismaili Muslim and who has dedicated her life to living interfaith. She moved from the US to Vancouver in 2017 with her family, so we can still say welcome. You're five years young here in this community. Thanks for making our city a better one, Kathy. She's come here with her family. She's currently leader of the Living Interfaith Sanctuary here in Vancouver, BC. Kathy specialized in conflict resolution pertaining to the Israel-Palestine conflict. She's worked for the Compassionate Listening Project, the American Friends of the Parents Circle, Families Forum, and the Council on American Islamic Relations. She's also certified Compassionate Listening Facilitator. In 2013, Kathy received her master's degree in Middle East Studies from the University of Washington. Kathy is currently studying at the Vancouver School of Theology towards a Master's of Divinity degree. I believe you're getting very close to the completion of that, aren't you, Kathy?
Yes, inshallah. Yes.
Yeah. Well, welcome, and we look forward to what you have to share.
Thank you so much, Tim. Here, I'm quickly going to share my screen. So thank you. Hopefully you all can see that. Yes, so thank you so much to the Ahmadiyya community for inviting me to speak tonight as the Buddhist speaker. Yes, and this is such an important topic and such a lovely topic, the multi-faith diaspora, so of which I am very happy to be a part. So thank you. I love this image. It's a collage by Tim Van Horn of Canadians from all walks of life across Canada, and showing that Canada is made up of this kind of mosaic of all of us. So I find it very inspiring. So yes, I'm speaking on Buddhism tonight. So it's so interesting, this idea of a multi-faith diaspora and how we can learn from each other and our differences. Because of course, Buddhism, like every tradition, we live among people, these traditions, and also there's lots of diversity within Buddhism itself. As Tim said, I come from the Mahayana tradition, which I can say a tiny bit about. So in the world population, as you can see here, Buddhists are slightly less than 7% of the world population. So we're fairly small as far as it goes. And then even within Buddhism, there are three major branches. So the Mahayana tradition, we're slightly more than half of all Buddhists, but still that's such a small percentage of the world's population. So about 3%. So I would hope we would all learn how to live with one another, since there is such great diversity in many ways. So one of the things I'm very passionate about as an interfaith leader is the idea that both within our traditions, there's a lot of diversity in our branches, and also what we mean when we say that we practice our traditions looks different based on what country we're from, where in that country we're from, what our background is, and also just how we practice. This is something that another Vancouver School of Theology professor, Reverend Janet Geer, teaches on, the spiritual banquet, and how we all have different aspects of our traditions that really speak to us. So here you can see folks for whom the sitting practice or meditating is of utmost importance versus doing peace marches. I used to belong to a group in the Seattle area where all of the meditations they did were on peace walks, because I think, trying to remember, it was an activist in Vietnam who said during the Vietnam War, when there are bombs falling outside, rather than meditating on my cushion, I want to be out protesting for peace. So groups for whom that is the best way to practice. Practicing dana, or charity, and giving to those in need, in this case in Burma, but all over the world, if that's the main way that you practice, that's so important. Belonging to a monastic community, which many of our traditions have, and in them following the kind of rituals, in this case, in the one picture of a Tibetan group who's getting ready to do a chanting and kind of musical practice, versus just having your own private practice at home where you burn incense, you maybe pray, take some time for silence. So all of these things, we can learn from them. And in all our traditions, we have this kind of diversity, something like this, maybe not these exact things, but they all can make up our practice and we can learn from them. There's something in Buddhism that I think really speaks to this called upaya, or skillful means. And it's the idea that people were noticing that over time, even with just the Buddha's words, he taught different things at different times. And there was some curiosity about that if he's speaking the Dharma and what he learned is the truth, why would that be different? And it's because over time they studied that because people themselves are different and relate to different things and need help in different ways. So if you imagine a really skillful Dharma teacher, they wouldn't only practice or offer teachings in one way, because that wouldn't work for all students. But instead, with skillful means, every kind of these practices, all these different teachings, we can benefit from them because they'll speak to us despite our backgrounds, all our diversity of backgrounds. So the Four Noble Truths make up the core teachings in Buddhism. The idea of the truth of there being suffering in the world, the cause of suffering is our clinging and wanting things to be a particular way that they cannot stay. The idea that things change and we don't want them to change. There's the cessation of suffering, the idea that we don't need to have this suffering if we can learn some way out of this. And then the path, the thing that gets us out of the suffering. And part of how we understand these things is through studying the three poisons. So these are things that cause us to have this suffering. When we have greed or clinging, or when we have hatred or revulsion, and when we have delusion. So the Buddha taught that anything that helps us escape, anything that leads to liberation and keeps us away from the three poisons can be a perfectly legitimate equal practice. So it doesn't have to look just one way. People don't have to be Buddhist. They don't have to practice in the same way or be from the same background or the same nationality or the same country. We can all learn from each other in this way. In the Kalama Sutta, the townspeople were asking the Buddha, we've been having a lot of religious teachers visiting us, and everyone says that their doctrine is the best and all the others are false. So what should we do about that? How can we understand how best to practice? And he said, well, don't take anything on authority, but instead sit and listen to everyone who comes along the way, and listen and pay attention for if the things they're teaching, if they're skillful, if they're worthy of being followed, if they have wisdom in them, if when they're carried out, they keep us away from harm and lead to liberation, then these are things that you can follow. And that's how you can discern for yourself how best to follow. So within that, as I was saying, even within my own Mahayana tradition, there's this lovely quote by Paul Williams, who wrote a book on the history of Mahayana. And he says, Buddhists see adaptation and perhaps even syncretism as a virtue in the Dharma, because we enable the teachings to be adapted to the needs of the hearers and thereby indicate the wisdom and compassion of the omniscient Buddha. So even within my own tradition, at different times, we can study these different living Buddhas and understand that in the world, there are things that can show us a more hopeful world, like the Maitreya Buddha, that bring us wisdom, like Manjari, compassion, like Guan Yin, and Jizo is the guardian who helps protect us. So when we're meditating, we can meditate on any of these, and each is equal to all the other ones because they all help in different ways. And in that, similarly, our different faith traditions can help us create a better world, bring us more wisdom, bring us more compassion, guide us along the way. All of these are necessary as Buddhists and as humans. So how can we best guide each other and help in this way? And finally, I just love this quote from the Dalai Lama. People were asking, they were concerned that lots of folks might be attracted to Buddhism, but how did they reconcile that with their previous faith traditions? And he says, you don't have to become Buddhist. The world really doesn't need any more Buddhists, but we do need more compassion. So practice compassion. So I love that we're doing that. I think that's what we're doing tonight. And thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, thank you, Kathy. Oh, I really love the image of this like spiritual feast or spiritual banquet that you suggested. And I think many of our faith traditions have these, recognize the spirituality of food as well. And so one wonderful way to practice peace is to have meals together. And we look forward to the time when we can actually all be in the same space. Though I do think there are some advantages to this medium as well, to technology. I noticed that our next speaker, Firdosh, was communicating, was sending a message or a chat over to you, Kathy, about what is hanging behind you there, the image behind you. So you may want to respond to him. Well, Mr. Firdosh Mehta is representing Zoroastrianism. He's born in Mumbai, India. Firdosh is a professional engineer who's highly regarded in his profession. He received numerous awards from both Canadian and American engineering societies. Firdosh has also been a leader in the Zoroastrian community in North America for over 40 years, volunteering his services not only to the community at large, but very specifically to the youth. Firdosh's scholarship and knowledge of the Zoroastrian religion has made him a popular presenter at various universities, interfaith groups, and worship centers throughout North America. He has represented the community at many international religious and peace conferences. Firdosh has even helped found the Zoroastrian Symphony Orchestra. I think Laura and Firdosh, you may have some fruitful conversations around music. We have a number of musicians among us this evening. Firdosh has been a visionary, a mentor, and an unflagging crusader of the Zoroastrian faith and its values. He is also founding member and past chair of the Edmonton Interfaith Center. Currently, Firdosh lives in New Westminster, where he continues to volunteer for the community and interfaith events, such as this one. It's an honor to have you with us, I believe for the first time, and I look forward to what you have to share with us.
Very much for the impressive introduction, some of which I did not even recollect. Anyway, thanks a lot. Before I go into my sharing of the PowerPoint, I am most grateful and thankful of the people of the First Nations of British Columbia for their kindness and generosity for us to reside on their Indigenous territories. Also, I would like to introduce that the Zoroastrian community are only about 6,000 to 7,000 in all of Canada, who have immigrated from all continents of the world, from everywhere into Canada. Okay, so my big thanks to the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'at, British Columbia, for their kindness in inviting us as a very, very tiny, small group to take part in some very important events like the United Nations World Interfaith Harmony Week celebration. The theme today is the multi-faith diaspora, a force for positive change. And I'm going to try to focus on the diaspora as in case of immigration and what is the force for positive change that we contribute towards the ultimate prosperity of all Canadians. Our history indicates more than 1,000 years ago, we moved from Khorasan by land to Hormuz, then by ships or boats in those days into Div or Diu, and then on to Sanjan, Udwada, etc. on the west coast of India. So we can say about 936 after Christ, we landed on the west shores of India as refugees, perhaps world's first boat people, for a safe haven escaping religious persecution in Iran. The dispersal and migration to Western countries like Canada, USA, UK, Australia, New Zealand are more recent. Though in the past, Zoroastrianism flourished as the state religion of three mighty Iranian empires, Persian empires, covering an area of more than 2 million square miles. Zoroastrian spread over present-day Hungary in Europe to faraway China and from the Caspian Sea to the Nile. When we landed in India more than 1,000 years ago, we were destitute. We wanted help and sanctuary. There was no immigration departments or filling out forms in those days. But an important thing that happened, that which we have now converted into a story and a tradition, and that is, as part of the acceptance by the Hindu king Jadav Rana at the time of our landing on the west coast of India, we were sent a bowl of milk, filled to the brim, signifying that there was no more space for the recent refugees. Please understand, this is 1,000 years ago. In India, we didn't have room for a few boatload of peoples, whereas today we have 1.2 billion people in India. So human beings are very resourceful in trying to accommodate themselves. Whereupon our chief priest, Dastur Naryosang Bhagal, added a pinch of sugar and returned the milk, signifying that instead of overflowing the milk, we will sweeten it. On receiving this, the king granted my ancestors asylum. Here is a little picturesque depiction of that. The first Zoroastrians in Canada came during the 1860s in Barkerville, British Columbia, to prospect for gold. Next one was a student who obtained his dentistry degree from the University of Toronto in 1922. Another Zoroastrian family arrived in 1930 and bought 200 acres of land in BC, but returned to Bombay for business purposes. Yet another Zoroastrian family was allowed to immigrate in 1941 from Japan. The eldest son served in the Royal Canadian Air Force during World War II, along with another Zoroastrian lieutenant in the Royal Canadian Navy. From the most recent group of immigrants to Canada, a Zoroastrian has been named court judge. One has been the president of a crown corporation. Another is a director of the Royal Canadian Mint. And a Zoroastrian lady has been the first woman to be elected to the Council of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Ontario in its existence for more than 100 years. Most of you may remember Maestro Zubin Mehta, of course, my namesake, who conducted the New York and Tel Aviv symphony orchestras, including the two famous concerts by the three tenors, watched by millions over the world as is a Zoroastrian. Father had been the director of the American Youth Symphony for many years. His brother conducted the Montreal Symphony Orchestra. Since I was introduced that I am responsible for starting and setting up the World Zoroastrian Symphony over here in North America, you can see that it is sort of in my blood. The whole idea of that was to have music for the whole orchestra sent out to Zoroastrian musicians from all over the world. And then they would all come to one point and practice for 2 days before the actual performance, wherever our North American congresses were held, like in Toronto, Houston, Los Angeles, etc. During the Bosnian crisis, the person chairing the meetings of the UN Security Council was a Zoroastrian. Many Zoroastrians have served with Canadian forces as UN peacekeepers all over the world. The promise of sugar in milk, given more than 1,000 years ago, is taught to all generations of our children as a tradition that wherever we go, we will make the world around us sweeter than what we came. This brief narrative of achievements of a microscopic community is given not as an exercise in self-congratulation, but as indicative of the Zoroastrian ethos to live the life to its full potential, because it is only with active participation in the affairs of the real world that a Zoroastrian assists Ahura Mazda, God of wisdom, in perfecting this world. Thank you very much with the ancient Avesta Zoroastrian greeting, which is Ushta Te. It means happiness to you. Thank you.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you for that so much, Mr. Mehta. May we all be sugar in other people's milk, indeed.
Yes.
Thank you for those.
Just as a little extension, since I have a minute, just to show that how we bring up our children with this very sort of idea of sugar and milk concept, though nobody really knows if somebody put any sugar in. That could be a story later on. But my daughter, when she was in grade 4 in Edmonton, she had a show and tell program in her class where she made a poster of the ships coming from that part, like I showed you on there, and then she explained this whole thing about the sugar and milk story. So it is really, really seriously part of our upbringing. We don't like to go into somebody's place, house, whatever, and they're kind enough to invite us, and then go and end up rearranging their furniture. Nobody likes that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, bless you. Firdosh also mentioned his gratitude for our Indigenous communities, our First Nations, neighbors and friends. And we are especially honored this evening to have with us Elder J. Kevin Barlow, who will be representing for us Indigenous spirituality. J. Kevin Barlow is Mi'kmaq from the Indian Island First Nation in New Brunswick. He's currently Chief Administrator for his home community after working on the national and international level. Elder Barlow recently completed the Aboriginal Leadership and Management Development Program at the Banff Center in November 2010. In 2008, he also won a National Award of Excellence in Aboriginal Programming from the Kaiser Foundation. Prior to returning to his home community, he spent 6 years as CEO of the Canadian Aboriginal AIDS Network, where he tripled the budget from just over $1 million to $3 million before then leaving his post. All in all, Elder Kevin has worked in the Aboriginal health field for over 25 years, presenting his research all over the world, New Zealand, the United States, Mexico, across Canada, exploring challenges in international HIV prevention and also AIDS education. Well, I've personally had the privilege of partnering together with Elder Barlow in a creation care interfaith initiative, and I've been deeply moved by his wisdom, his thoughtfulness, his generous and gentle, his generosity really toward all. So grateful to see you again, Elder Kevin, and look forward to what you have to share with us.
I just introduced myself in my language. As Tim pointed out, I am Mi'kmaq. That is an old bio, so I should send you a new one. But I've been out here in Coast Salish territory for a little over 8 years now. I live on the Capilano First Nation. As Mi'kmaq people, we were one of the first people to experience Europeans coming here to North America. And people arrived almost like how Firdosh was describing in a bad state, and they didn't survive here too well because we had very harsh winters, and they arrived here with scurvy and almost ready for death, and we helped them. And all of our treaties, in fact, that were signed on the East are called friendship treaties, because our friendship treaties basically said, okay, you're here now, let's walk together and coexist. We didn't give up our land, we didn't give up any rights, but unfortunately that happened. Once people got a foothold here, they took control and they pushed us onto small reserves, and so we're very familiar with how people came and rearranged our furniture, but our word is so important to us that we still upheld the treaties, even though others broke them. We still held our part of the bargain, and I come from what I call an earth religion. So we don't have a formal religion in the sense, we have a religion that respects Mother Earth, and that is our sustenance. And in fact, most Indigenous nations in North America, this is around the time of the year when we celebrate our New Year. So we don't follow the Christian calendar. Many do through labor laws and stuff like that. But traditionally, this would have been our first beginning of our new year, because midwinter, we would give thanks and hold a ceremony that we made it that far, and then we would call upon the Creator to help us through till the spring, and so this was that time of year when we did that, I think, for me, nature is our best medicine. It contains everything we will ever need. Like when we go out into nature, we can calm our minds, and we can get in touch with our soul, and we can listen to all the messages that the Creator sends us. Whereas when we're in these concrete jungles, sometimes we lose that message. It's hard to be spiritual in a material world because we all end up worrying about that. Where's the mortgage coming from? Where's this and that coming from? And, that type of thing. But when you go out into nature, you'll notice how you can calm down. Everything is in its right place, And so, sadly, humans are not doing well to Mother Earth, and somebody mentioned earlier a conference about climate change. I actually am the executive director of the BC Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society. And it's all about trying to, set aside lands and waters to be protected so that we can enjoy the bounty of Mother Earth, and we also deal with species at risk and try to reverse the biodiversity loss, and so that I think is our biggest challenge as humans, that our footprint is becoming too much. So yes, we can all talk and hug each other and like and come together and say good things, but we need to put our words behind our actions and find ways to protect Mother Earth. You know, there's a prophecy that I heard that we are entering a period of great chaos that we are going to start seeing very shortly, and I believe we're already seeing it. Very severe weather impacts like tsunamis, major earthquakes, the heat domes that we saw this summer, the flooding that we saw this summer. The area around Ottawa will become a series of islands and lakes. Major cities like New York and others will be underwater. This is because we have not done well to listen to what the Creator has taught us, that we need to respect Mother Earth, because that's what sustains us, you know. And so I call upon you all to use that message to try and spread the word among one another, that we must do more to minimize our impact on Mother Earth. Because, you know, it's strange how humans act, you know, that we're destroying the one thing that we need to survive, you know, and then now they're trying to fly to the space, and they're hoping to colonize those planets, you know, and then they'll just repeat what they did here, you know. We have to learn from our mistakes, you know, and I believe that's what the Creator teaches us. So I hope I didn't go too long. I didn't notice when I started, but, you know, I'm very thankful to be part of this community. And I you know, in our languages, we don't have words that really say hello and goodbye. When we meet someone, we say begumuksin, which is it's good to see you. And when we leave, we say namultazanen, which is we will see you again, you know. And that's because we believe that, you know, we are all related, you know, and we all need to work together and come together to live in harmony. And I really call on everybody to heed that call. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so very much, Elder Kevin, for, yes, every time I hear you, your wisdom. And by the way, Happy New Year to you as well. And may we heed the challenge that you give to us to protect Mother Earth. This is one beautiful planet we've been given and entrusted to us. And thank you for showing us by word and by deed ways to steward this, what we've been given well. Thank you again. Representing Christianity is the Venerable Richard Leggett. Now, even though both of us are clergy in the Christian faith, I don't believe I have ever met Dr. Leggett before. So it's good to meet you here this evening.
Thank you.
And I'm afraid I don't know a whole lot about you, but I do know that Dr. Leggett is a vicar of Holy Trinity Anglican Cathedral in New Westminster and also Archdeacon of Westminster. Prior to returning to congregational ministry there in New Westminster, in 2011, Dr. Leggett was professor of liturgical studies at Vancouver School of Theology for 23 years. So we have quite a Vancouver School of Theology connection here this evening as well, which is wonderful. He has also served as co-chair of the Vancouver Jewish Christian Dialogue. Well, welcome, Dr. Leggett.
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you. And once again, thank you to the Ahmadiyya community for hosting us. I live and work on the territory of the Hamelkamayan speaking peoples in New Westminster, and I live here in Delta, North Delta on the Coast Salish lands. So I'm very conscious of being in the other people's territory. I am myself an immigrant twice. I was born in England and then brought to the United States as an infant, and then chose to come to Canada in 1987. So when pushed, I actually carry 3 passports. So what that means is I realize that I'm always one of the things you learn as an immigrant is that you are always an immigrant. There are always moments when you realize that this is not the place where your roots are. If I were to go to a place of my roots, my name would be Rhys ap Donald ap Frederick. I am descended from the Welsh-speaking peoples of Anglesey in Ysmon, the island off the coast of what is now Great Britain, where we were driven by the Saxons we invited to come. So one of the things we Welsh understand is what happens when you invite someone and welcome them, but not take care to make sure that everyone agrees on how things are going to be done. You end up losing 3/4 of the land you had beforehand. One of the things that, first off, as Pastor Tim has mentioned, Christianity is very large. And so I want to be clear that I'm speaking to you today as a Christian in the Anglican tradition, which is a distinct tradition within the Christian movement. And as such, there are Christians who would not necessarily agree with what I'm about to say. I think that one of the things that we need to begin with when we talk about multi-faith in the diaspora from a Christian perspective is to return to our roots. And that is to the creation story itself in Genesis. Humanity is created in Genesis by God taking the soil of this earth, our mother, and breathing the spirit into it and creating this creature called Adam, which in Hebrew is basically the earth creature, a unitive being. And then God realizes that the creature is alone, and it's not good to be alone. We all need companionship. And so God creates all the other animals and brings them to see if Adam thinks that these are worthy partners. And Adam says, well, I like it, but it's not quite me. And finally, God has Adam fall to sleep, and from Adam creates what we call Ish and Isha, male and female, and the tooth and Ish, now man, says, the male says, last, my partner, my helpmate, my other part. And so at the heart of both Judaism and Christianity is the story of a creation in which we realize that it's not good to be alone. One of the problems with Christianity, quite frankly, is that over history, over time, we often have acted as if we're alone and have not valued our neighbors and those who share views different from those that we have. And so one of the things I think the multi-faith diaspora has done in places where Christians are open and willing to return to our roots, it's called us to return to these fundamental truths about who we are, that we are all children of this earth and we are all filled with God's Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, the holy breath of God. And so one of the things that I think we have to understand for Christians in the tradition I represent is that we recognize that we're all persons, we're not individuals. We're not autonomous, we are interdependent, and that as persons, we all have inherent dignity because we're made in the image of God, and that at the very heart of our existence as human beings is our relationship with God, a relationship that every human being has. And so we are all interdependent. And this is just part and parcel of being a human being, is to live in relationship, to live as someone with who is in this relationship with God. But our challenge is always to grow into our likeness with God. That is to say, how are we going to grow in how we relate to the universe and to others in the way that God relates to us? And God relates to us with generosity, with compassion, with self-giving love, in ways that are simply sometimes well beyond our comprehension. And so we understand Christianity at its best says all of us are growing into maturity. The writer of the letter to the Ephesians says that the goal of the Holy Spirit, of God's Spirit, is to help us all grow into the maturity which we as Christians see living for us in Jesus of Nazareth. And so our task is to grow into that maturity. And part of growing into maturity is recognizing that you don't have all the gifts. When I was ordained, my mentor in his sermon said, "Richard, you have many gifts, but you don't have all of them." Because he knew that I needed to hear that and be reminded of it. And so I think that not only do Christians within our own community need to recognize all the gifts. I mean, it's taken my tradition generations to value the insights from the Mennonite Anabaptist tradition, and to enter into conversations that at times we were active persecutors of the Mennonite tradition. And now, we realize that we were losing. It was a kind of self-harm to be engaged in that. So what we have to do is to respect other traditions, not just tolerate. I don't like it when someone says, I'm going to tolerate that. We respect, learn to respect other traditions and learn the gifts that they have, the perceptions, the insights about what it means to be a human being in relationship with God. So the diaspora, the multi-faith diaspora, compels Christians to, in a sense, go back to our roots and understand where we're going. And so this conversation today is just part of that ongoing task. And my prayer is one directed at the people who are within my own religious traditions, a religious tradition, that we grow up and learn to be open to the insights that are offered to us. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Leggett. And yeah, it's true. We Christians have often had a lot of trouble being in agreement. But I just want to say, as a Mennonite pastor, that I agree heartily with this Anglican vicar. It is not good for us to be alone or to act alone. We really do need each other. Thank you for calling us to that maturity. And thank you again to the Ahmadiyya community for actually enabling it this evening in this way. Okay. Representing Islam is Shakur Ahmad Balagh Sahib. Shakur Ahmad is married and the father of 3 kids. I just want to say, me too. We have 3 as well. He graduated from the Ahmadiyya College in Toronto, Ontario in 2010. Shakur Ahmad then served in the Western Ontario region, in the Toronto region, and I believe also in Saskatchewan, as well as doing some time of service in East Africa in the country of Uganda. Currently, Shakur Ahmad is serving as Imam here in Surrey, BC. Well, we do look forward to your perspective here, Shakur Ahmad.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. You can see the screen?
Yes, thanks.
First of all, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be upon you all. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Amma ba'du fa'auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. As respected Mr. Umar Chaudhary already presented the brief introduction of our community, I will skip my few slides, which are about the introduction of the Ahmadiyya community to save some time. So let me skip these. Okay, now I come straight to the topic. The vast majority of immigrants to Europe, especially recently, are Muslims fleeing from war-torn countries in the Middle East. But some people of those countries where these Muslims are settling in, especially in Europe, view Islam as incompatible with Western values and strive to propagate their belief that Muslims are unable to successfully integrate into the West and are a threat to other citizens. Further, many non-Muslims believe Islam to be a religion of extremism and imagine that those Muslims who immigrate will be extremists or religious fanatics, will spread poison in society. So they incite division and disturb the peace and well-being of their nation. We, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, have not been immune to such a position as well. They have campaigned against us, even though our motto is love for all, hatred for none. And despite the fact that for almost 130 years, our community has been at the very forefront of promoting peace, brotherhood, love, and compassion in all parts of the world. We are migrating from our home countries due to the persecution and injustices upon us. Our history testifies to the fact that wherever we have built mosques or become established, the fears of the local people have soon evaporated. Those who initially viewed us as suspicion have quickly become our loyal friends and sincere supporters. Throughout the world, our neighbors happily attest to the fact that Ahmadi Muslims are people who promote peace in society and who spread only a message of love, compassion, and human sympathy. Yet, due to the dire state of the Muslim world at large, the Ahmadiyya Muslim community has also had to suffer the consequences. The basic principle is that where a Muslim aspires to live peacefully, he must also endeavor to provide peace and security to others. Islam, the religion of Islam, requires every Muslim to live peacefully and to contribute to their society. Unquestionably, those Muslims who claim jihad means to attack non-Muslims or to forcefully convert them are manifestly wrong. Such beliefs and attitudes have nothing to do with the teachings of Islam. The founder of Islam, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also said that a true Muslim is he from whose tongue and hand all others are safe. So in every respect, Islam requires Muslims to display the highest standards of integrity and virtue. For example, in chapter 2, verse 189 of the Holy Quran, Allah the Almighty has admonished Muslims that they must never acquire wealth or property through means of deception. Rather, Muslims are taught to be honest, trustworthy, and to uphold the truth in all respect. Similarly, in chapter 83, verses 2 to 4, Muslims are taught the importance of fair dealing in matters of business and trade. Allah the Almighty states, "Woe unto those who give short measure, those who when they take measure from other people take it full, but when they give by measure to others or weigh to them, they give them less." So these verses state that those who are exploitative in business transactions, seeking unjust benefit for themselves at the expense of others, are those who are cursed and will ultimately be humiliated. The truth is that Islam has safeguarded society from all forms of cruelty and injustice and protects the life and property of every single person. We, Ahmadi Muslim, firmly believe that religion is a personal matter for every individual. It is a matter of the heart, and no one has the right to speak ill of the belief of other people. No one should mock what others consider sacred or holy, because treating other people with derision and contempt can only lead to pain and suffering and create division. Conversely, tolerance and mutual respect are the cornerstones through which we can build a peaceful and harmonious society. Our current leader, Mirza Masroor Ahmad, who resides in UK, London, says, day by day, mankind is moving further away from religion and spirituality, and the results are terrifying. It is my firm conviction that belief in God Almighty is the only means of salvation and the only way to bring about true peace, both at a national and international level. And so it is my deepest desire and ardent prayer that the world comes to recognize its creator and comes to follow his true teachings. Our goal and objective should be nothing less than to establish peace in every village, town, or city of every nation in the world. The Ahmadiyya Muslim community has always strived to fulfill this objective, and to this end, we propagate what we consider to be the key ingredient to peace, which is a firm belief that we are all the creation of God Almighty, and He created mankind so that they would recognize Him and fulfill the rights of one another. We are certain that if mankind comes to this realization, true and long-lasting peace can prevail. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much to you as well, Shakur Ahmad. Indeed, love for all, hatred for none. And, I've experienced in my interactions with my experience of your hospitality and welcome as a community there at the Ahmadiyya Center in Delta, that this isn't just a motto that you speak. This is a lifestyle that you live. And we're grateful for your example to us and the ways that you bring us together. I certainly know many of the participants here this evening as a result of the work that you are doing. Well, we have 3 more speakers, so I would just encourage you to take a deep breath. These are veterans of the interfaith movement as well. Good friends, Acharya, Balwant, and Susan. And we're looking forward to hearing from each of you. Let me introduce to you the representative of Hinduism, Acharya S.P. Dwivedi. Acharya has for more than 37 years been actively involved in the interfaith movement in Canada. He is a poet. I've enjoyed listening to some of his poetry. He's an essayist, literary critic, social activist, and a journalist. He has been featured in major radio talks and television shows, lecturing in Indian as well as in Canadian universities. Acharya's 6 books of poems are in circulation, as well as 2 edited anthologies. He writes in English and Hindi languages. In fact, Acharya holds 3 master's degrees in English, in Hindi, and also in political science. Acharya has organized and participated in several national and international interfaith, peace, and literary conferences. He's president of the Multi-Faith Action Society, which is the oldest interfaith organization here in Canada. He's also founding president of the Global Clergy Association of Canada, the Hindi Literary Society of Canada, the South Asian Literary Society, and the Global Hindu Foundation. Acharya, when I hear about all you're involved in, it's hard for me to believe that one person can accomplish that much in one lifetime. I will not ask your age, but I would invite you, please share with us.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, please. Thanks.
I'm very much pleased and happy to be the part of this symposium. I have been with the Ahmadiyya Society for more than 20 years. I have traveled with them in other cities of BC, like Whitehorse, Duncan, Kamloops, Kelowna, and other places with them, and shared with them the interfaith work with them. That is all. And I'm very happy that they are still continuing that kind of multi-faith work here. One thing I would like to correct is my brief introduction, which was given by you, that is an old one. I'm the past president of Multi-Faith Action Society. Now Susan Carey is the president. Diaspora, there's two words, this today's topic. I will concentrate on. I would not like to give the brief history about Hindu Dharma, Hindu religion. It is the oldest on earth, and 5,000 years of development and all that cannot put it. And we have so much diversity of sacraments, diversity of scriptures, diversity of philosophy and faith. So I particularly belong to the Vedic tradition. And the basic thing of Hindu Dharma is that we treat that whole universe is one family. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And as we treat and care and help the family of our members, in the same way we are supposed to help and support others, all human beings on earth. Second thing, we believe in oneness of all. We believe that the spark of the super consciousness of Brahman or God that dwells inside us. So in that way, internally living in all human beings and all living beings, so outwardly we might be different in language, in culture, in faith, in gender, and all that, but inside we are one. We are internally connected, and this interconnectedness with all living beings makes very great difference in approach dealing with the people. Now let us come with the topic. Diaspora can be defined as a dispersion from their original homeland or resettling of population from its indigenous territory to new place. But multi-faith does not go through such conditions or situations. So, like I can give the example, it can be cited the example of Indians migrated to Guyana, Trinidad, Fiji, Suriname, and thus they are part of Indian diaspora. However, multi-faith movement can be traced to its origin to 1893 Chicago's conference. There are two important words, multi-faith and positive change. In today's topic, I'm going to focus on them. Multi-faith movement as it exists today is relatively young, and most of the developments occurred in last 70 years. Surprisingly, it has picked up the momentum. The world has witnessed, especially since the last century, the terrible bombings, violent clashes, dangerous and horrible massacres carried out by extremists and terrorists of faith members. Mostly, people have reached to realization that faith-related enmity, hatred, violence, and prejudice can be only minimized, if not completely eliminated, by proper understanding, respecting, caring of the people of other faiths, and above all carry out the constructive dialogue with them. Multi-faith aims. Multi-faith aims to develop understanding, respect, cooperation of diverse faiths and foster inter-religious dialogue on local, national, global faith and peace issues. There are challenges of exclusiveness, normalizing pluralism, and creating peace-building networks. However, the multi-faith initiatives have been increasingly deployed as to counter global risks of violent terrorism and extremism. The effectiveness of multi-faith movement depends upon how it encounters the radicalization. No doubt, the terrorism has eclipsed the multi-faith movement. Respect for others. The ideology of respect to others is ingrained in Hindu scripture. Ekam sad vipra bhavanti. I'm quoting from the Vedas. Truth is one, but scholars interpret it differently. Unless we have respect for others' faith, we cannot work together to get into peaceful dialogue. The last century witnessed terrorist attacks on innocent people based on misguided faith. And all this have happened because lack of respect for other faiths. Differences we might have in rituals, myths, in theological interpretation, but all faiths fundamentally advocate in favor of human dignity and oneness of all. We should not forget that diversity is the law of nature, and it is well reflected in animal, bird, fish, plant, and stars. Thus, we should accept this diversity of faith also and respect them. Understanding other faiths. Generally, people carry backpack of stereotype of beliefs about other religions. Because of it, the judgments are flawed. Multi-faith organizations arrange seminars, conferences, and symposiums in which open discussions are carried on diverse topics and issues that certainly helps to heighten their understanding of other faiths. Initiate dialogue. Multi-faith encourages to get into dialogue other people of faith. To seek any solution of faith related issue, we initiate dialogue with other religions actors. Obviously, talking and discussing to each other increase the understanding. Positive thinking. Multi-faith supports the principle of human dignity and well-being of humanity. And rightly, Hindu religion promotes the positive consciousness towards the well-being of human. I'm going to quote from the Mahabharata. Adroha sarvabhutesu karmana manasa gira. Not to have any hostility towards any living being in thought, speech, and action. Religion is for the betterment of all beings. The positive thoughts create healthy environment of support, cooperation, compassion, while negative thoughts such as hatred, violence, prejudice, injustice do magnify more of it. There has been enormous research in past on human behavior, positive well-being, psychology of religion, positive psychology, and so on. The basic concepts which are brought out by research are relevant in stimulating positive awareness. According to R.H. Emmons, quote, people who are religious show better emotional well-being and lower rate of delinquency, alcoholism, drug abuse, and other social problems, unquote. While spirituality focuses on finding one's own sacred self and place in the universe, spiritual beliefs are shaped through prayer, meditation, and communion with divinity. The multi-faith experience requires social interaction. Religiosity has been recognized as a positive positiveness. Indeed, self-realization can be attained through social affiliation. There are certain health benefits in positive thinking. The positive approach will remove from religion, race, and color-based enmity, hate, and violence. And further, it will substitute with more active cooperation and collaboration towards building space and well-being for all. The mantra for active positive thinking is think and act positively. I will end my talk with the prayer. Chidananda Karam Shruti Sarat Saram Samrasam Niradhara Dharam Bhava Jalati Param Pargunam Rama Kantam Kantam Bhava Bhaya Bhayantam Bhava Sukham Dura Shantam Shantam Nikhile Bhantam Bhuvanapam Shant Shant Peace Peace Peace. Thank you.
And peace and blessings to you too, Acharya. Thank you for your leadership and modeling this deep respect for others, this welcoming of diversity. Our next speaker is Mr. Balwant Sangera, who will be representing for us Sikhism. As an educator, an activist, a community organizer, Balwant Sangera has been identified by the Vancouver Sun as one of the 100 most influential Indo-Canadians in British Columbia. Balwant came to Canada in 1966 and quickly became an important community leader, first in Lillooet, BC, serving on the municipal council there for 13 years. He obtained his Master of Education at the University of British Columbia in 1983. 1990, he accepted a position as school psychologist with the Burnaby School District. There he worked at the Maple Adolescence Center, where he helped youth with behavioral difficulties. Well, Balwant retired, I put that in air quotes, in 2004, continues to be a major pillar in the community, particularly in counseling of new immigrants and adolescents. He served as vice chairman of the board of Langara College, senator at the Simon Fraser University from 1994 through to 2001, and chairperson of the BC Teachers Federation Committee of Ombudspersons. Currently, he's member of the board of the Governors of British Columbia Institute of Technology and serving as General Secretary of the Indian Cultural Centre of Canada, the Gurdwara Nanak Niwaz in Richmond. Well, in recognition of his efforts, Sangera was appointed to the Order of British Columbia in 2004. He's been awarded the Queen's Golden Jubilee Medal in 2002 as well, and the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal just in 2012. Mr. Balwant Sangera and I go back quite a long way, don't we? Largely through the Highway to Heaven Association in Richmond, which Balwant still, I believe, ably chairs. Mr. Sangera is passionate about interfaith harmony, has done so much to bring together the faith communities along this famed Highway to Heaven. Single-handedly is responsible for organizing the yearly Canada Day float for the Salmon Festival, which proclaims to our neighbors every year that even though we are widely diverse in our faith, we come together as good neighbors, and we show to Richmond that people, and not just to Richmond, but to British Columbia, that people of faith can love each other through our faith and in the midst of our differences. Balwant, I count it an honor to be your friend, and I look forward to hearing from you this evening.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. I'll try to come to the point. Canada is a wonderful country. I think we should be proud of the mosaic model that we have, where our culture and religion are not only recognized but appreciated. So far as Sikhism is concerned, the word Sikh means a learner, a student. And Sikhism is a fairly modern, new religion, you can call. The founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak Dev, was born in 1469 and he passed away in 1539. So that's almost 550 years ago, something like that. Guru Nanak Dev gave 3 basic principles, which are the cornerstone of this religion,
Number one, he said, make an honest living. Number two, share with others and help others as much as you can. And number three, meditate in the name of God Almighty. And Sikhism has gone through a very transitional phase. The first, there were 10 gurus. We call guru somebody, a person who brings light to remove the darkness. That's our teacher, special teacher, guru that we call. And there were 10 of them. And the first 5 were kind of, advocating for peace, mutual harmony, those kind of things, and kind of promoting Guru Nanak's message. But then the 6th one, at that time, the rulers at that time became very aggressive. They even executed the 5th Guru. So his son took up the arms. So that is how Sikhism came, combination. There was a transition from a saint to a soldier. So we call both saint and soldier. And the 10th Guru, he gave a formal shape to Sikhism. And when he baptized 5 people and gave them the name Singh, means a lion, and the ladies, Kaur means a princess. So anyway, Sikhism respects humanity. Our basic, I was very pleased to hear from Kevin Barlow, the nature. In Sikhism, nature, Guru Nanak gave us the 3 things for nature. He said, air is our teacher, water is our father, earth is our mother. Respect them. And that is what our basic philosophy is, to respect nature as another form of God. So we really respect nature as very, very much like our Aboriginal friends. I'm sure other religions do the same too, but we have a special focus on nature. And free food. So that is another way to kind of bring positive change. Our Sikh, our places of worship, we call them gurdwaras. Nearly every gurdwara offers free food to anybody who comes. We do not ask who you are, what is your religion, from where you are. We say, come on, welcome, you're welcome to share with us. So like equality. Also, Guru Nanak Dev had a special place for women. He said, we must give women their due respect. They are the ones who gave birth to saints and soldiers and generals and other, prominent people. So we must give the woman equal respect. And in Sikh religion, we have very special place for women. So also, as I mentioned, Sikhism has 2 aspects, saint and soldier. Our 10th Guru, he said, when every means of righting a wrong fails, then raising of the sword is not only just, but it is pious. So against injustice, stand up. Don't care for your life. When you're facing injustice, fight for the people who cannot fight for themselves. So those were some of the basic things. Our prayer, every day we pray, and our prayer ends with the goodwill for the whole humanity. And here, as you mentioned, Tim, it was great to have you as my friend. We work together. Our highway to heaven is another example. Like, our Sikh temple on number 5 Rose is very devoted to promoting highway to heaven and promoting intercultural, interreligious harmony. So we do that, and we are very proud to do that. In 1917, BBC, I think Tim knows that, BBC did a story on highway to heaven. So I had a call from Ottawa, Global Affairs Canada. There were 13 ambassadors from New York, United Nations ambassadors, coming to Vancouver for a conference, international conference on peace and defense. So I had a call. They said, they have heard about your highway to heaven, and these people are interested in coming and seeing you guys. So we invited them to our Buddha Sikh temple, and we kind of offered them good lunch and We really hosted them very pleasantly. And we had a very good discussion. We have two very well-read persons who made the presentation about the highway to heaven. One was the vice principal of the Jewish Day School. The other one was the vice principal of the Islamic Academy, both on our east side of the Sikh temple. And they were very impressed. And the Canadian ambassador was just beaming. He said, this is what the world needs to follow. There are about 25 different places of worship at Tim knows, and we work with each other, we sport with each other, and I think that is what is celebration of diversity, and that's what empowering all of us. At the end, the Jordanian ambassador, she stood up. She said, I'm so impressed with what you people are doing. In the Middle East, we have only one religion, and look what's happening. And here, around 25 of you, 25 different religions of different denominations, you are supporting each other, you are working with each other, and you are celebrating each other. As Tim mentioned earlier, it's a really privilege to participate together, all of us, at the Stevenson Salmon Fest. Now, because of the COVID-19, for the last couple of years, we haven't been able to do that, but once things open up, we'll be doing that again. So we are doing our part. Sikhism is very strong believer of appreciating, promoting diversity, and empowering everybody. So I'll leave it at that. And I hope I've given you, incidentally, there are 30 million Sikhs around the globe. And in Canada, there are about close to 1 million Sikhs. And Sikhs believe in the work ethic, and they are, as I mentioned earlier, in generosity. Wherever there is a natural disaster, the Sikhs go there to offer help, not only food, but whatever way they can, they help. So we are very proud of being part of the Canadian mosaic and being part of the total humanity. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Well, thank you again, Bhawant. Yes, brings back so many good memories of all those meetings that you hosted in your Gurdwara, and of course, the delicious food that we got to participate in after those meetings. Yeah, last but not least, representing Baha'i is Mrs. Susan Motahede. For more than a decade now, I've had the opportunity too and the privilege of encountering you, Susan, and participating with her in the important interfaith events such as this one right here. Susan has been a longtime resident of Richmond, where our family was as well from 2003 to 2015. Susan has been a member of the Baha'i community for 44 years. She's an award-winning journalist and teacher who loves to bring out the best in others through the language of virtues as a way of promoting peace. Susan loves unity and diversity. She promoted this concept in China for more than 7 years. She lived there. She currently serves on the Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'i of Richmond and has initiated and participated in community building activities that help empower children in particular and youth to be agents of change and serve their families and their neighborhoods. I think it's really wonderful how these leaders of the interfaith movement are so invested in the next generation, well, in this generation, in our youth, in our kids. Bless you. Susan, please share with us.
Thank you very much. And good evening, dear friends. And I bring you loving greetings from the Baha'i community and also acknowledge and honor the Indigenous lands that we live on, and also our commitment to truth and reconciliation and understanding and working towards the calls to action of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And we want to really express immense gratitude, first of all, to the United Nations for recognizing and honoring the importance of interfaith harmony, and to the Ahmadiyya Muslim Jama'at BC for bringing us all together tonight. It's been really a rich sharing. Someone, I think at the beginning it might have been Rabbi Laura that talked about it being a feast, like a banquet of richness coming together. We're really celebrating our unity in diversity. More than 150 years ago, Baha'u'llah said, "The earth is but one country and mankind its citizens." Today, though, we see a divided world in disarray. It is being said that there is both an integrating and a disintegrating force operating in our world. We see the disintegration and the conflict and contention that rages around us, and it's through things like racism, corruption, materialism, greed, individualism, self-interest, all as a result of humanity's turning away from the teachings of God. The integrating force, however, is bringing people together, and the realization that we are members of one human family is dawning upon the peoples of the world. In Richmond, for example, we just have to look to Highway to Heaven on number 5 Road, which is home to more than 20 places of worship, all expressing their faith and reaching out to others in harmony and unity. The dislocation and migration of so many that is due to the conflict and strife have brought people of every race and nation and class to our shores. And as difficult as that is, we might see it as giving us an opportunity to learn from each other, to be enriched by one another and working together in unity and respect to build a better world. This then is our strength and our goal. Baha'u'llah states that the purpose for which mortal men have from utter nothingness stepped into the realm of being is that they may work for the betterment of the world and live together in concord and harmony. He has revealed teachings that make this possible. In a recent letter, the Universal House of Justice wrote, "Building a society that consciously pursues this collective purpose is the work of not only this generation, but of many generations to come." And Baha'is welcome all who labor alongside them in this undertaking. It means learning how to raise up vibrant, outward-looking communities. It means those communities learning how to bring about spiritual and material progress. It means learning how to contribute to the discourses that influence the direction of that progress. They all represent ways of awakening the energies latent in the human soul and channeling them towards the betterment of society. Baha'u'llah has made a design for the uniting of all the peoples of the world. We should make every effort to draw everyone into this circle of unity. When we meet people of different races, nationalities, religions, and opinions, we should not allow these differences to become barriers between us. We should think of them as different colored roses growing in the beautiful garden of humanity and rejoice to be among them. Everyone has a share and a part to play in the goal of building a better world. Every voice is needed. The contribution of each serves to enrich the whole. We all have unique talents to share and contribute so that together we can leave a legacy for generations to come. There is no time to lose. As part of our contribution, we're proposing to launch with each of your communities a series of conferences that will examine our past achievements and learnings as a community and project our mutual vision for, say, the next 10 years or so. Similar conferences are being prepared in cities and villages around the world. We would like to be in touch with you to organize these conferences very soon and exchange ideas on how our communities can contribute to building a more vibrant, harmonious society. I would like to close with this beautiful prayer for humanity, revealed by Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, who was the perfect exemplar of his teachings and the center of his covenant. O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence, they are all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty. All are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all. Thou hast provided for all, dost shelter all, conferrest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all. Let the religions agree and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father, God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the strong hold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, and thou art the one who overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind. Thank you, friends.
May it be so. Thank you, Susan, for reminding us that each one of us has a part to play. Each of us has a role. And indeed, it is kindness. Kindness is a wonderful place to begin. Well, again, it has been such an honor to be a part of this event with each of you. I must say it's been extremely rich, but it's also been, I don't know, give me a hunger, a longing for the day when we can all be together in one place and we can chat afterward face to face and dialogue and maybe even have a meal together. So this has been wonderful. We are so thankful for the technology, but a big thank you for each person's part and for the privilege and honor of being able to help moderate in this way. I'm going to now turn things over to the local Amir of the Ahmadiyya Jama'at for the closing remarks. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. May peace, mercy, and blessings be upon you all. As a host, we have utmost pleasure to have you all with us. This was a sunny day and beautiful day, and this is a wonderful evening altogether. Thank you all who are in attendance, the audience, and as I said, respected scholars with us today. We are indeed delighted to have all the respected guest speakers with various faiths, with immense and very impressive credentials. Thank you all for your time and sharing the wealth of knowledge with us in this honestly a small allocated time. This is not virtually possible to consolidate your thoughts. It is an art, and scholars have the art to do this. Many of you are familiar faces, long-term friends with the community, and few of those are new. Those are going to become long-term friends, inshallah. After listening to all you, one thing prompted to me that we have so much common. Being part of the interfaith dialogue, we have common hopes, we have common challenges, we have some common obstacles, and these are common denominators. We are dealing with those within our capacity, but we are sharing here our concerns, our grief, solutions, resolves. This is so beautiful. I won't take much time, and we were really on time. And obviously, once again, I have to acknowledge Pastor Tim. You have done a wonderful job. You have conducted the program with welcoming smile. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm also thankful to the organizers. They have successfully maintained the continuity of interfaith harmony by arranging these kind of programs. And Tim, I hear you. We need to have some space in near future, sit together over meal, even in a smaller group. That can be done. So we want to meet in a bigger group, but at least in smaller group we can manage. So looking forward to do that, and we would be glad to host you at our venue. And Omar Saab is listening, and we will inshallah arrange such a sitting with all respectable scholars and long-term friends, new friends, what not to say. I leave you with one message, which is, I kind of like it, and it is very impressive message. And it came from Kathy Merchant at the end of her presentation. The message is, let us practice compassion. Let us practice compassion. And I will add, let us practice compassion and kindness. With this, thank you so much. And I will request, this is our tradition, to conclude with the silent prayer. And you may join silent prayer the way you practice, the way you feel comfortable. Please join me in the silent prayer. Allahumma ameen. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bashir.
Thank you so
and
much.
all of you.
Thank you so very much, everybody. Thank you very much, and a good evening to all of you.